games and to see their progress and to understand how much I did really care about them outside of just the game itself, it made them want to show up. It made them care. It made them want to actually work together and have a sisterhood to where they loved each other.
My brothers are Philip, LB, Chris, and Emmanuel. When I watch my brothers play, I look up to them and I play against them a lot. So it makes me a little tougher to play against girls.
The town's name is very strong in the community, and she's living up to her name.
My goal for Leonard McKinley is to win more games and set an example for little kids.
Being a senior is pretty bittersweet that the program is just getting together and I'm about to leave, but I'm happy it got together. Coach means a lot to me. She is actually my NOAC advisor, so I be in her office a lot.
Miss Crenshaw, she makes sure I make it to individual workouts, things I need help with to be better.
She set up some team bonding for us. We do a lot of stuff on and off the court. I do enjoy playing against East since they are our rivals.
I have fun playing against Kennedy from Centennial, Kayla from Centennial, Layla from International.
For college, I would like to study stenography. College coaches should recruit me because I feel like I'm a good leader, I'm a good listener, and I have good discipline, and I can push myself.
She's always going to put 110% into whatever it is that she does. So a lot of the times whenever coaches are looking for that one player, that spark, Samaya Harrington would be that person. I cannot wait to see the young woman that she's going to become.
I just want to do photography and still do basketball. College coaches should recruit me because I put all the work in. I'm very humble. I could make buckets and I like to share the ball and communicate.
College coaches should recruit Christiana Towns because of her work ethic, the ability that she has, which is natural, and on top of that, she's very coachable. It's something different whenever you have someone to step on the court that has an athletic ability, that has a game that is different than a lot of players that do play the game, and you can still teach them something.
My name is William Stinchcombe, and I've been with the Columbus City Schools for 23 years.
My name is Mr. Dorsey Birdsall, and I'm a safety and security specialist.
My name is Anita Roman, and I am a Columbus City Schools bus driver.
My name is Sammy Gonzalez. I'm a food service manager currently at Briggs High School.
I know that if I'm not there every day and on time, that student may not have a ride to school. And that weighs on me heavily. And I take pride in knowing that my students can set their clock on me. I'm always, it takes a lot for me not to come to work. It's important to come to work every day, be on time, because we may be the only way that student gets to school.
Seeing the kids years later and having them come up to me and say how thankful and grateful they were and happy that, I kept them safe.
You need one more now.
Maybe she's
Need one more. To have quorum, you one more. No, you two more. Two more. I'm ready to go. All right, welcome to today's Academic and Facility Alignment Committee. Today is March 13, 2025. Mr. Williams, can we call the roll?
Mr. Cole?
Present.
Mr. Bean?
Present.
Ms. Turner?
Present.
Mr. Robinson?
Present.
We are one short of quorum?
One short.
All right. Luckily, there's nothing really to pass forward to the board for advisory consideration, but we'll move forward on to approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
Wait, you can't take that motion until we get quorum.
Thank you.
Move forward.
Muscle memory, habit. Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Today we have a very informative, thank you, Mr. Trevino, for being here. We have a very informative board committee meeting. I want to establish first a couple of things, though, for our membership. One is that I'm looking to grow our membership. And for those of you in the community who have relationship with individuals who have a unique understanding of curriculum, a unique understanding, acumen in understanding school curriculum. I definitely would like to have somebody come to the meeting, or definitely reach out to me via email. That is mcole@columbus.k12.oh.us. You can also reach out to Mr. Carl Williams. Carl, yours is C. Williams?
C. Williams 6 at columbus.k12.oh.us.
C. Williams 6 at columbus.k12.oh.us. Those who are interested. Other individuals that I'm interested in having are folks who have a strong acumen in understanding facilities, and understanding the operations of facilities, and understanding the management of facilities. I'm definitely interested in having folks also who have a unique acumen in understanding things like tax abatements and, city, how can I say, municipal activities and operations, that they can bring that level of understanding to this committee. I'm looking for individuals in that space as well. So with that, let's begin with our, well, you know what, let me back up. Let me back up a little bit. I'm going too fast. The other thing is that I want to make sure that we're clear on what our focus is going to be for the year. We've got a considerable amount of work ahead of us. One of the biggest things we have facing us is called realignment. Realignment. It is where we're actually looking at our curriculum, looking at our schools, and looking at our assets in a way in which we can identify how we align pathways, how we align all of these things that are going to provide every bit of what our students need to be successful in every grade band. So we'll be looking at grade band offerings. Our next meeting will actually be looking at ELL, or English language learners. We'll be looking at the ELL space and getting a sense of what's taking place there that's really positive, but also where there's growing and tremendous still need. All right. So with that, our biggest focus this year is going to be on alignment and the work that we're putting forward to make sure that before this biennial budget gets shored up, before all of these things that at this point in time are very ambiguous, very amidst the unknown, the X factor, so to speak, what we want to do is make sure that we're in the best place possible to give the best kind of advice to the board for clarity about what this realignment process can look like, especially as we talk about engaging the community. So with that, I'll continue on. We have a wonderful organization today. On our committee's operation piece, we have two presentations. One is from Verigy K through 12 Education. Mr. Collins, thank you so much. And forgive me, your name again is, and we'll meet you again, but tell me.
John Saxton.
All right, Mr. Saxton, thank you. And I should remember that because one of my favorite actors, but his last name was Saxon. His name was Saxon. That's right. Right. That was Enter the Dragon. But we have that presentation, and then we also have our CTE and Career Academies presentation. So I look forward to that. So why don't we get started with our first presentation, which is from Verigy K through 12 Education. Mr. Saxon, Mr. Collins, thank you and welcome. Sure, yes, and you have the podium right there. You have the podium.
Good evening, thank you. And first of all, thank you for being here tonight, and most importantly, thank you for what you all do every day. It's very important and very significant. I've had a privilege to do some work with Columbus City Schools in a number of occasions. I also had the privilege to actually lead the search that brought you, Angela, Dr. Chapman, your superintendent. And it's been a pleasure to be part of this time after time. I'll take a little credit for the fact that I hired Dan Good in Westerville as a board member before, and we chipped off a few of the rough edges before you got to see the finished product. And I smile when I say that, one of the finest. And Michael and I go back probably before he had a little gray hair in his beard, and I had brown hair and almost white hair. But thank you. My only purpose here really is to introduce John Saxton and Vera G. Oh, thank you. I've had the privilege, I run an education consulting firm and have since 2017. And I've had the privilege to work with Vera G fairly recently. But John and I have a long history. It is my first term on the state board. I actually represented Southeastern Ohio and the Coalition of Rural and Appalachian Schools. And as a superintendent in Chillicothe, he was a significant driving force in the growth and maturity of that organization. You're in great hands. And he's brought me to their work. And the thing I find is not only that you know, as they focus primarily on savings and from resources, particularly energy savings, and have become experts not only in Ohio but across the country. And there's a thing that's about to occur this summer, and it has to do with energy and shedding load of your energy, because that's what your electric is going to be evaluated on going forward. And they have the most unique product in the state. And they also do some very significant things. And he's going to share all that with you. So I'm going to get out of the way. But I really wanted to share with you that I've known John a long time. I've gotten to know the company very well. And we have the privilege of not just having to represent anybody that comes through our doors. So this was a very strategic selection on our part. And we're thrilled to be a very small part of this. And now it's kind of like I'm just the butter on the bread, and now I'm going to give you the bread. Okay, so it's with great privilege I introduce you to Dr. John Saxton.
Good evening, Dr. Saxton. Welcome.
Well, thank you, President Cole, and thank you all for allowing me to be a part of your agenda this evening. I'm not a doctor, by the way. I just play one on TV, but I did stay on a Holiday Inn Express last night. If you might have noticed, I got a little nervous there for a second because the slides were advancing, and I was having this nightmarish flashback to a time when I was giving a presentation, and the slides were advancing because I had automatically set it up to do so. But Mr. Collins was playing a trick on me because he was pushing the button when he was speaking. So I apologize if I interrupted anything.
No worries.
Again, we appreciate having the honor and privilege of being here in front of you tonight. And I was told to have about 30 minutes, so I probably have about 15 now. But I will try to be brief and go through a few slides, tell you a little bit more about our company. And when I was talking to Carl, he immediately recognized that we were formerly known as Dynamics Energy Services and Dynamics Engineering, and I think Alex has probably had some experience with some of our engineering side. So we are our local company, been in Columbus area for about 35 years and done millions and millions of dollars worth of projects. We started out just as Dynamics Engineering, and then around 2009 or 10, we began getting into the energy services world. So what we saw happening is a lot of districts that we were working with as part of the engineering team were experiencing some challenges after they had been commissioned, and not necessarily ones that we had designed, but all kinds of districts, as there was a flurry of buildings being built in the early 2000s. They were commissioned to work, but they weren't necessarily commissioned to work efficiently. They weren't necessarily commissioned to work effectively. So we did a lot of work getting them to be more efficient and more effective and comfortable for student learning. And so that's where the energy services, or ESCO, came from about 2009 or 10. And then a few years later, Dynamics built a software program called FMX, Facilities Management Express. And that's used by a lot of organizations throughout, I think, over 160 schools in Ohio. And that's a software tool that basically is called a CMS, Computerized Maintenance Management System. I'm not sure what one you use here in the district, but it's an excellent tool, and we use it to manage our projects and realized how beneficial it was. So I first came in contact with the company when I was serving as a superintendent, and I was looking for a paperless workflow that would easily allow me to have 10 different calendars, which in your district it's probably 200 different calendars in one location, to be able to process work orders and maintenance requests and transportation requests and IT requests in one place. And so that's how I came to know our founders, which was Gene Griffin, Gary Montgomery, and Todd Mace. So Gene and Todd have since moved on and retired, but Gary Montgomery is still our regional vice president. In about 2019, Dynamics Energy Services was then became part of a conglomerate of national other companies throughout the country and formed Verigy. So now Verigy is have offices in California, Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts. So we do about $450 million worth of sales a year. And again, our enjoyment comes in making sure that we please our customers and delight them as best we can with what we do. We do not have a cookie cutter approach that is, here's what we do and this is what we would do with you. It is, how can we help you? What kinds of things do you need us to be able to do? And then we figure it out. Sometimes it's going to be, as Michael mentioned, the GridCap software program that does load shedding during the peak hours in the summer. Sometimes it's going to be digital services. Sometimes it's going to be HVAC equipment. Sometimes it's going to be renovating bathrooms, which we just finished a project down in Washington County to do that. So that's a little bit about our company. From my own experience, I joined the team 7 years ago. I have spent, 36 or 7 years now in public education. I was telling Jennifer earlier, I've done everything from teaching, coaching, advising clubs, student council advisor, mock trial team, assistant principal, transportation coordinator, principal, assistant superintendent, director of curriculum instruction, director of personnel, superintendent, and served on 2 different boards of education. I'm the spouse of a teacher, the son of a teacher, and the son of a coach. So I think I've got it all covered. During my time as a superintendent, as an administrator, which was 20 years, I was part of several different construction, renovation, acquisitions, and in my world, which was mostly in rural Appalachian school districts, we did more than $100 million worth of new construction. So I was really excited to be a part of that. So I know the operations side pretty well as well. So that's helped me a lot in my work. And I just wanted to give you that little overview of who you're talking to here tonight. I am not an engineer and I'm not a doctor, but I definitely have had the boots on the ground experiences, and I'm a proud parent of 2 kids that have graduated from public schools and care deeply about what's going on in public education today. And I know the challenges that you have here with your committee and with your entire board, and when you talk about realignment, I realize that is a very hot button issue, very much affected by what's going on up the street here. And I'm hoping that we'll have a better resolution than the way it's looking right now for you. But you do have some challenges ahead of you, and we're here to help if in any way we can do that. So I will go through a couple slides here. So just telling you a little bit about our credibility. I think I got most of those states in there. I didn't know about the Kansas office, so I missed that one. We are one of only 14 countries or companies who have the NAESCO accreditation, which is the National Association of Energy Services Company. Again, that's a pretty high standard. I've given you some other information there about the Meta agreement as well. So I think it's your second handout there. The Meta Solutions agreement, we are the only ESCO that has the master agreement through Meta. So they put this contract out to bid, and we are the only company, only ESCO here in Ohio that was able to earn that accreditation through a very rigorous RFP process. So again, there is guaranteed unit pricing that is a part of the scope of that RFP. So it was a rigorous process, rigorous interview process, and the decision made by the Meta board was made up of educators, superintendents, and treasurers who sit on the Meta board. This is to me, again, I won't belabor my presentation here tonight, but I think it's really important that you understand the 4 pillars of value are something that we hold dear as a company to provide you with educational, financial, operational, and community value. And again, it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's what do you need us to be able to do to help you, and let's talk about ways we can do that. So from that educational pillar, and as you talk about some of the things you're talking about with your academics part of the committee, especially with Career Tech, there are a lot of things that we're open to doing. We have curriculum support that we can provide to you. We have done job fairs or career development units. We did a presentation to a school that we did as a customer recently, where we had all different kinds of people and all different job titles, from the mechanical contractors and technicians to our marketing team, to our project development, to our project engineers, to our salespeople, and talked about all the careers. We're happy to do things like that. But again, there's no cookie cutter approach. It's we work with you to find out what kinds of things we can do. If it's STEM programming, if it's on-site student internships, we're open to all of that. The financial value is obviously in any kind of measurable cost reductions that we can provide to you. In some cases, it may be cost avoidance, especially with what we see going on with energy prices right now. They are increasing. If you're doing projects and importing equipment and goods and steel and supplies, these costs are going up and probably going to continue to go up the way the current trends are. And the funding stream may not be going up, unfortunately. So you have to make really smart decisions about what you're going to do there. Operationally, we want to help you improve your facilities as best we can so that you can provide safe, clean, healthy learning environments for your students and for your staff to teach in. And then the community value. We have an excellent marketing team that can help you with your marketing team to come together and figure out what kinds of things resonate with this community. It could be putting a panel in a cafeteria that shows the energy that we've saved, or the decarbonization that we've been able to provide, the number of vehicles that have been taken off the road, the trees that have been saved. It could be something environmentally like that, or it could be talking about what we were spending last year on operations versus what we're spending now as a part of an energy program. So again, that's up to you. Just again to highlight, we are a turnkey project implementer. So we provide services as a construction manager at risk. The good news for a school district that's looking at something like that, the risk is on us, the company, to deliver to you a guaranteed maximum price, and whatever that price is, that's the most that you're going to pay. The rest, the risk and making sure that we come in on time and on budget, is on us. As part of the Meta agreement, you're also represented by Bricker Graydon, and the legal fees and the legal costs are included in whatever the price of a project might be. So they work for you as their customer, but that fee is included as part of the Meta agreement. So that's something that I think is worth noting. As you can see, we can provide all these different services to you. Our bread and butter is digital controls. And we have a platform, and I'll talk a little bit about it here in a minute, but we have a platform that's called Orchestrate. And the idea behind Orchestrate, again, I'll get to it, is to basically bring all these disparate systems together on one controls platform so that you can see what's going on anywhere you want at any time in real time, and if necessary, make adjustments. And on our side, we can see that as well. And if we're working with you on a project or after a project, we then can help troubleshoot and support Alex and his team and what they need to do to be able to hopefully troubleshoot in a quick way. In a lot of cases, it's without having to call anybody with a truck and a service charge. It can just be done digitally. So I think I'm probably sharing some stuff with you that you probably already know. This is just a simple state report card data on where you're at with your operations and maintenance costs. And you can see that the blue bar represents the state average over the last 3 years, and the green bar represents Columbus City Schools over the last 3 years. And just as an observation, it's obviously higher than the state average, which in an urban area should be expected. But it's escalating at a higher rate than the state average. So that's something we would definitely want to dig into. But this is just preliminary data that we're looking at. But one of the things it can tell you, or maybe the question then is asked, is what are some of the causes for that? One of the causes, I'm sure, when you're talking about operations and maintenance costs per pupil, has to do with your enrollment. So that enrollment, if the enrollment is not, if it's not keeping up with the amount of square footage that you have, then you're probably going to see those costs for operations and maintenance go up. So that is just one data point that we look at in the state report card. If we do a feasibility assessment, we get into more detail and try to find out how much you're spending per square foot or how many KBTUs per square foot you're using. So those are more precise numbers than per pupil. And as you can see, again, this slide just points out that the other school districts in Franklin County are managing right around or under the state budget or the state average. And obviously, this is something that we want to try to help you with to get that number more in line. And again, as I mentioned, that operations and maintenance cost doesn't tell the whole story, but as you're thinking about realignment, that is definitely something that can help you as you talk to the community about what's important here, because that's one of the things that if you're doing, I hate to say the word building closures, but if that's on the agenda, this is something that can be made as an argument for how you can save money on your cost per pupil by realigning. As I mentioned, some of the other data points, and you just see some slides, and you have this information, so I won't read through all of this. There are a lot of different energy conservation measures that can be worked on, and I'm sure that you're doing that, a lot of that already. It's where do you get the funds to be able to do that kind of work? Because again, when you're getting millions, tens of millions of dollars cut from your budget from the state, it makes it really hard to make an investment in what you're going to do with the buildings that you do have. But like I said, we do digital controls as our specialty, but we serve as a contractor, as a construction manager at risk, and we do a lot of work with building envelope controls, staffing, and HVAC equipment. We work with any contractor. As I mentioned, there's no cookie cutter approach, so if you have preferred groups of contractors or contractors that you want to work with, we are not proprietary in any way. We are open procurement, we are open vendor, we are open source. So if you say, well, we work with this particular architect, we want you to partner with this architect, can you do that? Yes. If you say we have this particular mechanical contractor that we like and we work with, can you work with them? If you're good with that, we're good with that. We don't lock you into a multi-year agreement that says you have to be with us for 5 years and provide us with a PM contract, and you can only do work, and they're only going to touch something if they're going to get $500 to drive out here. That's not how we work. Same with the digital services. We provide that technical services, and if we do a project, the first year after we complete the project, all of our time is included in making sure that we're fine-tuning your buildings to make sure that they're operating to your satisfaction. And that's included in our price, 12 months of technical services. We don't have proprietary software. So you're not locked into buying the software or the parts or the supplies from a particular vendor or that have a particular brand name at a particular price. A lot of our customers buy their equipment supplies from Columbus Temperature Control here locally, which provides lots of different vendors' equipment. So again, that's, I think, a plus for us. This is an example of how performance contracting works, and I won't spend a lot of time because I don't want to take up too much of my time with this. But basically, the idea here, if you study this slide a little bit more, is to try to use energy savings as an asset. There is energy savings to get in most every district. The challenge is how much you're going to have to spend to get equipment up to date to be able to keep up with that level of efficiency to get that energy savings. So again, our approach would be to do a feasibility assessment. It could be in one building, it could be in a group of buildings, it could be in 2 buildings, it could be in all buildings. However you would want to proceed with something like that, we do the facilities assessment, the feasibility assessment, and we come in and we see what those opportunities are. We walk through the building with your staff and get an idea for what the needs are and then try to figure out a plan. But again, the whole idea as an ESCO is to provide you with energy savings to be, and again, this is my take on things, it's an asset. But sometimes you have to make an investment in that to be able to get that return on your investment. The challenge is they don't build stuff like they used to. Boilers used to last for 50 years. Boilers are now lasting maybe 20, 25. Chillers, 15 years if they're running efficiently and they're properly serviced. You might get less years out of a chiller now. And you might see parts like compressors and things which are expensive fail even quicker than that 10 to 15-year life expectancy. Digital control systems they're like a computer for your buildings, and they only last about 15 years, if you're lucky in a lot of cases. So if you think about your computer that you're working on, you probably don't have a laptop from 15 years ago and expect it to operate as quickly and as efficiently as it did. That's the same with your building control systems. I'm not going to get into the details of that. This is the slide I wanted to show you about Orchestrate. So the Orchestrate Hub, as I mentioned, we're controls experts. So we have tried to bring all these, I raise my hands like I'm the actual conductor. Mike said he was the butter and I was the bread. You can tell who's been eating more bread. So I probably should not raise my hands and try to look like a conductor. But we try to bring all these disparate systems together on one platform that's easy for your team to use and to try to make it as efficient as possible. If you're operating a building, and Alex knows this very well, I'm sure, you have all these different systems. So if you have a ball game at 6 o'clock at night, but school let out at 3:30, and you want to shut down your building HVAC system, we believe that by all means you should shut it down at 3:30 and only then operate it when and where it's needed. So what we would recommend doing, if it's possible, is shut the building down at 3:30 or 4 o'clock when the last person is mostly out of the building, and then it stays off except for those places where you need it to be cooled. So if the ball game's at 6 o'clock in the gym, this system, using our integration, can work with your building automation system to then bring the gym to, let's say it's cool the gym for the 6 o'clock tip-off of the basketball game. So it doesn't have to run that entire time. It uses artificial intelligence and algorithms to be able to say, okay, we're expecting 150 people at this ball game tonight. The temperature outside is 75. We need to get the temperature inside the building at 70. So this is how much energy we need to use to be able to bring that system on and get it to temperature at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock. The game's going to be over by 8:30. We go back into unoccupied mode. To do that, usually someone has to program the building automation system, and then they have to program it again for that special event. If you have door access controls, you probably have to have somebody entering that as well. So they would only enter those doors to be unlocked going into the gym because they don't want people going all over the building. So those are examples. Lighting controls, same thing. You have to enter, in a lot of cases, manually, all this. Our idea is to bring this all into one Orchestrate hub so that we say that there's going to be a ball game at 6 o'clock. I keep forgetting the time of the ball game. That it needs to then communicate with your building automation system, with your calendar system. It may be FMX. It may be another CMMS tool. We can work with others. It has an API that gets these different programs to talk to each other, and you're running a much more efficient building. A lot of schools just say, well, you know what, it's just easier to keep the air conditioning on until 10 o'clock at night. Meanwhile, you're spending 6.5 hours of the day cooling 90% of a building that has nobody in it, which doesn't make any sense. The technology is there to be able to do these kinds of things. Orchestrate is our way of doing it. This is one of the things that Mike mentioned. You may have heard about the grid and the increase. I don't know if I did that or if we're back on the automatic thing. So this is you, I'm sure, do load shedding already in parts of your buildings. It's doing it again, so I apologize for that. As you can see from last year, the prices of the auction for the peak load contribution, the charge was $28.92. For this year, it's $269.92. So that is an increase of 833%. So as you see your bills coming in June, it's a year behind. So if you have not been able to manage all of the load by shedding load during those 5 peak hours of the summer, you're probably going to experience a significant increase in what you're paying for those times during last summer. on your bills, and again, this is a very big district, a very complicated system, and I haven't seen your bills, so I can't speak to having seen them. But what districts are realizing is that they're going to be paying for those 5 peak hours, and in a lot of cases, a lot of districts don't shed load at all. Your district does, I'm quite sure of that. The challenge is how are you doing it, and is there a better way to do it? And that's where our product known as GridCap comes in. Because GridCap uses artificial intelligence, and it connects your building automation system to the grid, and then the grid and the weather conditions and how much demand is being put on the grid will then identify what those 5 peak times are each summer from June 1st to September 30th. So what you want to try to do is, as best you can without sacrificing comfort, is shut as much stuff off as possible during those times so that you're not paying, and especially, and in a lot of cases, when there's nobody really benefiting from education during those times. You might have an isolated area at 4 o'clock on August 27th that has kids in it and staff in it, and you can override those kinds of things. But throughout the whole district, if you're using a maximum amount of energy during those times, you're going to pay for it. And unfortunately, you're going to pay a lot for it, the way things are looking right now from this past year's auction and this upcoming auction. And the reason for that is this is not political, but during the Biden administration, there was obviously a lot of emphasis on not building new coal-burning power plants and trying to do more with renewable energy. And now what we have happened is there's a greater demand on the grid because there isn't enough construction of new power plants to keep up with the demand. And the demand is really growing. And in Ohio, it's really growing when you see all these data centers all around us, and they're popping up everywhere. So this is kind of a new world we're living in, and this is not something that school folks, myself especially, would have ever really understood. And so we're trying to get the word out about that. So that's a product that we have. So if we were to do any work with you, or if you were considering working with us, the process for us is basically this. We just identify what kinds of things you would be looking at if there was 1 building, 2 buildings, a group of buildings, all buildings, whatever it might be, and we have conversation about what kinds of needs you have and what your goals are, what your realignment plans are, and we try to get bills and look at your bills and try to analyze the bills and see what we can find that might stand out to an energy savings opportunity. Walk through your buildings, talk with your staff, and figure out what some things are that we could do for you. This is not a formal resolution. It doesn't necessarily need to have action by the Board of Education as a full board. There's no cost involved for basically what's considered an ASHRAE Level 1 assessment. We then would come back to your administrative team and bring some ideas forth, some options. Could be a good, better, best type of scenario. It could be if the state budget passes in its present form, in a different form, or hopefully a better form. But again, that's all up to you. We would identify those energy conservation measures and come up with some ways that we could help you find to pay for them. I would love to say there are a lot of grants out there, but we know what's happened to some of those grants. So there was a really good one called Renew America's Schools that had $500 million in it, and that's been suspended. So that's probably not going to be an option. There are some grants available through the Ohio Department of Development that we could look at. There are some incentives that some of the power companies can offer. Obviously, we would want to look at every opportunity we could, but there is still some hope that the Inflation Reduction Act has some money available as well. So that's another option. Again, the future of IRA is a little uncertain, but there are fortunately some really important things to a lot of Americans in the Inflation Reduction Act that aren't necessarily energy related that are keeping it alive, and I hope that continues. So that's basically our process and what we do. That's just another graphic to explain that. These are the districts that we're in throughout Ohio. I work primarily in central and southeastern Ohio, so I've worked with a lot of those districts. I would consider any of them a good reference that you would be welcome to talk to if you had any questions about our work. And that's Gary, Gary, Gene, and Todd Mace were our founders at Dynamics, and Gary Orr is our sales manager, and I'm located just here about a half hour south of town. So, does anyone have any questions?
Well, thank you for your presentation. The floor is open for everyone at the table to ask questions. I know this is a lot of information. People are inundated. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Thank you for your presentation. Very impressive company. Couple questions. How do you calculate maintenance costs per pupil?
So that is a High Department of Education and Workforce Development calculation. It's been around for a while. And a treasurer or CFO would probably be better able to answer the question than me. It is the money that is reported in EMIS for transportation, for your utilities, for your food service, and for your building operations. It's all goes in there, and basically that number is divided by your number of pupils enrolled. So that's the basic idea. And I think that typically a target, well, the average for the state is around 11% of your total expenditures is the state average for operations and maintenance costs, and Columbus City is about 14%. So you're a little bit above. But again, you're an urban area. There are very unique things going on. So I think the per pupil measurement is kind of skewed, but it's the only one that the public's going to see. Whereas if we did a feasibility assessment, we said, well, based on your square footage, this is what your cost is per square foot, or your actual amount of energy being used. Those are more precise measurements. So we try to take all that in consideration when we do a feasibility assessment.
Yes.
I notice your map that you have a large part of the state of Ohio covered, but I don't see many urban areas. What's up with that? Do you want to be there or you're not? I mean, it's a great company. You provide great services, but I see mostly all rural.
Well, again, the majority of those are my customers. So I live in the corner of the panhandle of Pickaway County, southeastern Pickaway County. As Mike mentioned, I was the president of the Coalition of Rural and Appalachian Schools. And so that was my experience as a world I know. Those are the folks that I know. I actually coached principals in Columbus City schools about 5 years ago as part of the OLI-4 project. I worked with Dr. Johnson at Beechcroft and Tracy Colson, who was at Mifflin, and Kim Mills at Mifflin High School. So I worked with several of your principals. So I'm familiar with your district, and that's why I'm really glad to be able to be here tonight. We did do a huge project with Reynoldsburg, and we're just finishing up a project right now with Whitehall City. Again, I think a lot of that just comes from my experiences. Those are mostly my dots. The ones actually north of 70, except for the one in Tuscarawas County, are not my dots. So
thank you.
I guess that's my best explanation. We'd love to have the opportunity to work in an urban district.
Yes, Mr. Bean.
Yes. What experience does your company or your solutions have for more of the non-educational spaces that a district may offer? Columbus City being, a larger district, has a dedicated, vehicle maintenance building, food service production facility, warehouse, etc. I was just curious if your company or you personally have any experience was offering these type of energy saving solutions for those type of environments.
Yeah, definitely. As several of these projects, and I could go to different dots and tell you about a location down in Scioto County at Bloom Vernon Local Schools. We did a 21,000 square foot bubble. It's like, I don't know if you've been to Cincinnati by the stadium on the river, and they have that big dome. We did one of those for a little rural school district in Scioto County. So it's a big space with a lot of open space, and there's no classroom space there. But part of the reason they were able to do that, one, is they had ESSER money, But two, they were saving $15,000 a month. In a little school district like that, they were saving $15,000 a month on their utility bills from a previous project they did with us. We did the field house at Tays Valley Local Schools, just down the road in Pickaway County. Again, it's a big open space. So we have the know-how and the experience. And again, we work with good contractors to do those kinds of spaces. A lot of our building projects do include a maintenance facility, do include some warehouses. A lot of these schools that I'm showing here, though, are not of the size of your district, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Yes, ma'am.
John, thank you tonight for your presentation. I want to give you a personal shout out for the many titles you hold. I'm on my road to hopefully obtain as many as you have. I've been in the classroom, counselor, and principal, testing out the waters now for school board. Thank you for your presentation. I have a few questions. In the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned that your company holds the, what is it, the credential, the 1 in 14, is it 14 million? The NESCO credential. I don't know if you're familiar, John, but yesterday we had our State of the State of our governor, Mike DeWine. If you know about the ever-changing landscape of Ohio, we are now known as the new Silicon Valley. So solar, manufacturing, this is something that is going to be really in-housed here. With you guys having this NESCO credential, has there been any opportunities or discussions around potentially credentialifying students with potential school districts you worked with previously in other states, knowing that technical education is now the new boom? I'm sure you're aware. Has that been a conversation with other school districts you've collaborated with in the past?
So the credentialing that you're speaking of for the pathway to graduation, and again, I'm familiar with this as a superintendent, and my wife is a teacher in a career tech school. So yes, I'm familiar. In fact, and I was on the board of the school where my wife was, so we were definitely exploring different ways to get kids credentialed to be able to graduate. So one of the creative ways we came up with was Lean Six Sigma credentialing, and so we were doing that as a career center. So to answer your question is, again, if this is something that we would want to work on together as one of those 4 pillars of value, that's definitely something we could do. When I was a superintendent, we had a major construction project going on. We had a high school senior that wanted to go into construction management. The construction manager, which was Summit Construction, they hired him during school. He was not enrolled at the Career Tech Center, which was a JVS. He was enrolled at our school, but he was able to earn credit and money at the same time by going through the program and working with Summit Construction, which, that was a great partnership for us. So again, those are the kinds of things we can do. And to add to that, what you mentioned about NASCO, we just recently, in fact, it was late last week, got the Meta contract for solar. So we are the only ESCO that's able to provide solar services as well, which, as I mentioned, with the Inflation Reduction Act, there's still some hope that public schools can get investment tax credits if they do a project, at least 30% off the cost of your project. So that's also very helpful. So yes, we're into being creative and working on what that is, but we don't come with the cookie cutter approach that says, here's the program, take it or leave it. We build it together.
John, you came to the right committee. I mean, we are alignment in facilities, so that's perfect. Because as the workforce changes, we want to make sure that we are, I would say, supporting our students as best as we can with curriculum, so they can actually get, I would say, secured employment upon graduation. We're hoping to, shift our portrait of graduate. So my second question is concerning cutting cost. You showed a slide that was kind of comparison of our district alongside, the expenditure that's going up with solar. We have, I want to say, do we have 800 buses, only 500 on the streets? We have inventory of surplus. And we need to be able to cut costs. As you probably are aware, we did close school buildings. As we do, we need renovation of many of our institutions that we house our educators and families in. So I guess my main question is, in order to do this needs assessment, which I believe our district needs to kind of look at where we can support our educators, supporting them in getting, I would say, qualified to teach this curriculum. We have a lot of educators in our district who also have various backgrounds in robotics and technology. So being able to work with you to credentialify not only our educators, but also integrate your curriculum so we can also credentialify our students. To do a high-profile assessment, as you mentioned, to look at that and to look at our, our expenditures and budgets that were, on solar and facilities. If we were to move forward and potential hypotheticals to do an assessment, are we able to have that information as a district and share before moving forward with maybe a potential partnership with your agency? Is that something that okay, yeah.
Absolutely. So the education side of that and what we might propose would be something that, again, as we go through this process of getting to know each other and understand, where you're at and where you want to be, then we come up with some ideas on how we can do that. We have some curriculum that we can share. We also have connections to Jason Learning as an example. I don't know if you do anything with Jason Learning, but Jason Learning creates modules that we could provide to your district to be able to be used for your students that might be in enrichment activities. It could be part of credentialing. Again, we can work with you, with a vendor such as Jason as an example, to be able to come up with whatever that might look like. The feasibility assessment, again, as I mentioned, it's pretty high level, so it's not going to get into final pricing if we're talking about the whole district. But if we're talking about one building and you wanted to say, well, we want to do this at East and it needs this, this, and this, and what's it going to cost, and yeah, we can get you a pretty good price on what that would be. And then if we had a program specific to East, we could do something like that. If we're talking about bigger things with the district, I think we kind of brainstorm and dream and throw stuff on the ceiling, see what sticks, and then move forward as we know what your needs are, what your budget is, what time that's going to be involved is going to look like. And I don't really know exactly what that looks like. That's kind of the fun part for me is, as an educator, as a principal, as a superintendent, I'm a paid problem solver. And with working with an engineering company, I get to do this every day with lots of different districts, and I enjoy that. That was the fun part of the job. I don't enjoy and didn't enjoy having to deal with social media and bullying and some of those other headaches. So this is fun stuff, and I think that there's all kinds of different possibilities.
Thank you, John. I think that's important that we're able to kind of share that information that we receive from your agency with our community.
Yeah, and it would be public information, and we could review it beforehand before bringing it to a board meeting or a committee meeting, so that it's something that is compatible with your interests and wanting that to be shared with the community.
Thank you, John. And you also did mention that there are grants out there for this type of work. Also, wanted to also highlight to our other committee members, there also is state and federal funding, and I would say innovation in STEM and technology. So this credentialing could also be another opportunity for our district to gain additional funds to move forward with your company to make these type of changes. So Thank you again, John. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I'll take one final. Anyone? Bueller? Mr. Collins, I'm sorry, we didn't hear you.
Can I just add one footnote?
Certainly you can.
You need to come up.
Yeah, you have to come up to the mic, good sir.
The one footnote is, if GridCap has any resonates with you at all, you got to remember, they're going to start taking note at the end of May. And there needs to be some assessment done by Verigy in that process. So this is something that at least probably no later than, definitely by the end of April, and if not before, that you would have to at least make a decision. You at least want to take a look at it. You want to see what it is. You're going to ask them to do an assessment. And not that you're not doing some of that already. The fact of the matter is, this is the only one that's not just human, totally human controlled, and given circumstances and shortages and those kinds of things. So I'm just urging you that this one has some real timing to be a real benefactor, for you to be a benefactor by the time these the scorekeeping starts and the calculations start. So that's all I wanted to add, President Cole.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. All right, we'll move on in the agenda. Before I get started with that, before I move on in the agenda, I wanted to give a moment of acknowledgement. Today at 4 o'clock, and it actually started around 5, the actual award ceremony was for PBIS, its showcase. Just so you know, PBIS is Positive Behavior Intervention Services. This is one of 3 kinds of its types that we use under our multi-tiered systems of services, or MTSS. We use restorative practices, we use trauma-informed care, and we also use PBIS. We've been acknowledged as a district leader in the state of Ohio. For the 5th time this year, we've been given the acknowledgement by the state as being one of the best implementers of this behavioral system. So I'm really excited. I'm actually going to open the floor for our next committee meeting to have PBIS and that team present to the committee and talk about how we're actually implementing this with excellence in about 68 different schools that were awarded by the state in this program. So I just wanted to make sure, I told them my head was on fire for them and that I was going to brag about this. They'll get their opportunity in April to talk more. So moving on, we'll go to CTE and Career Academics presentation. Dr. Mosher.
So good evening. This presentation, you're going to be very excited because all of the work that was just featured in the previous presentation, we're about to talk about why it is so important that our facilities support the academic programming that our students are engaging in. And you heard about solar, you heard about project management, you heard about construction. We are about to talk about how we are preparing our students to take those careers in the future. So I will get started. So I do want to just make sure that we all understand that our career technical education program and the career academies that we're going to talk about align to our board goals. Of course, you've become familiar with our 3 Board of Education goals. And this evening, we are really going to focus on closing opportunity gaps in the way that career technical education is helping to support this board goal. We also, within our revised strategic plan, specifically call out how we are preparing portrait-ready graduates and have a specific initiative related to working with our school communities to expand or redesign the college and career connected learning that is happening in all parts of town. And so I'm going to turn this over now to Director Mead, who will go into additional detail about what career technical education looks like right now.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to start off with a little bit of a celebration in looking at our Career Tech Planning District Report Card. So Columbus City Schools is the Career Tech Planning lead for Columbus City Schools, Grandview, Upper Arlington, Westerville, and the charter non-public schools in Central Ohio. So the report card that we receive is very similar to what you see in the comprehensive high schools, and it reflects students who were concentrators taking 2 or more high school credit courses, which are called VT courses, and that data is used to create a report card. So the majority of students that are in the report card are Columbus City students, whether in our career centers or in our comprehensive. So the exciting news that came out in the fall and that we are really proud of our report card is that we received a 4.5 out of 5 stars on the report card. Some things to really lift and celebrate. Whenever you look at a report card, there's always work to do, but there's also things to celebrate. How do we replicate? How do we find other places in the district to replicate those successes? So when you start off at the beginning, 94.3% of students who are taking 2 or more CTE classes are graduating at a 94.3% graduation rate. Last year, we had 9,694 credentials earned, and a lot of times from industry partners, we're hearing about those professional skills that students also need on top of those technical skills. So the Ohioans Job Readiness Seal focuses on 14 professional skills. So we had 1,198 students proficient or above in 14 skills, earning that seal that they can take with them as they graduate. Some other things to lift on the report card is focusing how do we use our advisory boards to be able to connect partners and industry partners and our educators to focus on the technical skills that are being taught in the classroom so that they are relevant into the workforce. When a student leaves the classroom and goes to OSU Wexner Hospital, they're seeing similar software, similar techniques, similar procedures. So some success in helping us move in our report card, the technical skill attainment, which really focuses on the end of course exams. We had a 56.9%. We increased to 67.7%, passing and doing really well on the test. We had more students participating, which ultimately leads to finding out, do they understand the content? Are they ready to move forward? Also focusing on our industry recognized credentials, thinking about the students in the pathway. Are they earning those highest level credentials to be able to transfer to workforce? So again, in our report card, we were able to celebrate and recognize that growth of the number of students earning industry credentials in their fields. So our current state is something, again, we're also celebrating. So when you think about that data, if students that are in 2 or more CTE classes are graduating at a higher rate, how do we increase that? What does that look like within our district? So our current state shows that we have a little over 9,000 students, grades 7 to 12, receiving career tech education, which is an increase and will continue to increase. The number of ELL students that we're servicing is 20% of that population. Our special ed population is 18%. And when you look at the areas that we are having programs in, we have 22 different programs. 8 programs are across our comprehensive high schools, and there are 15 career fields, and we're currently servicing 14. The only career field that we do not have is finance. So all other 14 areas are covered across our CTPD. So a lot of people then dive into, well, where are these programs and what schools have the programs? What does it look like? So this chart shows you all of the high schools across the top, the programs of concentration along the left side. So you can see we have a distribution, and we do have a large number of schools that have marketing. So when you think about high schools and students thinking about what they're interested in, if you're an 8th grader or ninth grader, you may not know exactly what you're interested in. But if you ask pretty much any 14 or 15-year-old, they do think they're a social media influencer. And so by having those marketing skills to be able to persuade or market themselves, whatever their professional skills, marketing is a great place to have our students earning credits and being able to focus on so that as they continue with technical skills, they can market themselves as a great employee. So when you think about some of the engagements and the work that we're doing is we typically into the month of December have our career centers open, and we had students who were sophomores thinking about applying into career centers attend the CTE open house. This year we changed that pivot to a CTE showcase. We invited industry partners. We had over 25 partners there so that you could hear from industry. We invited middle school students and their families so that they could start hearing, and we had all of our comprehensive high schools represented so that you're coming to a showcase that was just based out of our 2 career centers, but it highlights what we're offering in our different high schools. What are our industry partners saying? Is it relevant? So that you could see, like in the picture, you see Elford Construction. So if you're thinking about being in a skilled trade, you could walk over to the table and talk about the program, the skills that are learned, how much money you could potentially make as you're graduating from high school or going into post-secondary opportunities. On the right side, you see the Career Tech Student Organization. So any student who is in CTE courses should be a member of DECA, Business Professionals of America, FFA, Skills USA. So this year we hosted our own district competition to have more students engaged, participating. We had 250 students, and we had about 30 industry partners who were the judges. So students did not come to a district event to be getting feedback from teachers. They received feedback from industry professionals in the field. It was a great event for both. So many of the industry professionals left saying, I feel so hopeful about the future, getting a chance to meet students one-on-one. More importantly, our students now are building a professional network. They're meeting people their sophomore year, their junior year. They're practicing interviews. They're getting feedback. So there's one young man, he asked for me to take a picture with his judge. He's a freshman, and I'm like, let's take a picture every year to see how you progress as time goes on. It was a great event. We really enjoyed it. So when you think about workforce partnership and action, a real area that we're starting to turn is thinking about those work-based learning engagements. Work-based learning is very different than an internship. Work-based learning has to be identified to technical skill. You have to get feedback from an industry partner, and it has to be evaluated and given feedback. So some of the key ones that we're developing and continuing to grow is a partnership such as CODA, Columbus Zoo, Habitat for Humanity, City of Columbus with building and zoning. We're engaging students into authentic learning experiences. And more importantly, the industry is learning about how to market positions to students who are 18, 19, 20 years old. They're building those relationships so that students then not only are having that experience, they're applying and becoming the employees of those institutions. Advisory boards is something I love to talk about. We're always recruiting people to be on our advisory boards because that's what makes our curriculum develop and enhance. So we have 2 a year, one in the fall, one in the spring. All teachers of programs of concentration attend those meetings. In the spring, we just had one on March 5th. We had 83 industry partners that were joining the table with educators talking about, is the curriculum relevant? Is it what we need as students are graduating, going into post-secondary and going into the workforce? They collaborate, they look at some of those career tech student organization competitions. What does a job skill demonstration look like? That's a picture of Andy Taylor, our welding instructor. So he's sitting with different companies and industry partners who are giving him feedback as we're doing job skill demonstration. What is it that a future welder should be able to demonstrate at a high level? And then those industry partners are the people who come and judge. They push into the classroom. They give that feedback to the students. So again, advisory boards is crucial as we continue to expand and grow our career tech education program so that it is relevant to the workforce, because the workforce is giving us that voice of what our curriculum should look like and can contain. And we have a short little video that we might skip.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
We have been working over the last couple of years with Columbus City Schools to develop work-based learning opportunities for students. Through our connections with Fort Hays Career Center, we have been able to have really strong partnerships with teachers and with staff. We're kind of really highlighting trades, different kind of behind-the-scene operational jobs that people don't typically think about when they think about zoos. We have 3 carpentry students. We have 2 students that are working in the horticulture department. We have an electrician, and then we have HVAC students as well, doing things such as installing light fixtures, doing things in air ducts. They've also been doing a lot of general maintenance.
So it combines the knowledge that they're learning with their CTE programs at Fort Hays Career Center, and they're able to take it not only into the real world, but expand upon that knowledge that they're learning here at the Columbus Zoo. These are high-demand jobs. You can really work anywhere, including something as phenomenal as the Columbus Zoo, broadening their horizons and providing that step into the industry.
Being able to tell students that there's jobs other than zookeepers is a huge thing.
This program here is directly related to what we do inside the class. Watering, weeding, pruning, the whole landscaping bit in general.
It's like such a great program because you're meeting the right people and you're learning the right things. So it's not only helping you narrow down the career path you want to be doing, but also giving you the tools to be able to get a job in that field and all the certifications that you need for that field.
Work towards our mission of empowering people to save wildlife is huge to the program. So being able to let our horticulture students or our electricians know that they are directly impacting conservation every day is vital.
It's a great opportunity for a lot of kids, and I think a lot of people should take advantage of it because these trades are dying and we need a lot of people in them.
The work that I'm doing here helps us, understand not only how the plants work, but what it takes to keep plants alive and how to manage them. I really love working at the zoo here. would highly recommend it to anyone.
I would love to thank our partnership with Fort Hays and with Columbus City Schools. I'm excited to be able to see where this program grows over the next couple of years. I would also love to thank our sponsor, Battelle. They make it so that we're able to pay the students and then get any kind of equipment or anything that they would need to be able to be here.
So when you go back and you think about that first statistic about graduation rates, students are having week on, week off, taking academics, and then in the workforce getting paid. I don't know if you heard that part in the video. Students every other week are working for the Columbus Zoo and receiving a paycheck. What a great experience. So then their desire to graduate and to put on their resume that they are working at the Columbus Zoo. What a fantastic opportunity, and how can we grow that and give that opportunity to more students? So as you think about our strategies and what we're doing to continue to grow CTE, number one is to partner with comprehensive high schools to ensure our CTE courses are offered in a designated sequence. Typically, comprehensive high schools would offer courses almost as if it was an elective. What I continue to say is you can't take calculus if you didn't take Algebra 1. Same thing in career tech education. What are those foundational courses, and then what are the sequence of courses? We've now aligned that into our comprehensive high schools. Ensuring that the end of course web exams are taken so that we can show that kids can demonstrate those technical skills. It's also a graduation pathway. Students who score proficient or above on 3 or more web exams can use that as a pathway. And then to expand the credentialing efforts in comprehensive high schools. Lean Sigma was just mentioned. That's a great credential that really helps people think about different processes they put in place to eliminate waste. How are students coming out with forklift certification, STNA certification, medical assist, all of this earned in high school that gets your foot into the door immediately. And then when you look at the bottom, our current career centers, we have students that are applying to be in our programs. So we just completed round 1 of our career centers for next school year. Already we have 80% of the positions or seats filled. Some of the offers are still pending, and then we have some open spots in areas. When you continue to think about some areas, manufacturing, there's still a traditional thought of what is manufacturing. So when we start saying, are you interested in robotics or smart automation? A bunch of kids are going to raise their hand that maybe didn't raise it if you said if you're interested in a manufacturing. So doing some rebranding for some of those open seats to make sure that we're filling those. I'm going to turn it back over.
So this committee is in for a treat and a peek at a new strategy that we are very, very excited about, which is focused on college and career connected learning, giving every student the tools they need to succeed beyond high school, whether they choose to attend college, enter the workforce, or start their own business. We want to ensure that our students are prepared, confident, and equipped to tackle the challenges of tomorrow. And we're dedicated to equipping our students with the skills and knowledge they need to thrive in a rapidly changing world. We have been working for the past 2 years behind the scenes, setting the stage, getting feedback, conducting focus groups on career academies, and now is the time to launch this strategy. What we have heard from doing focus groups, from visiting our schools, we have heard that our students and staff are ready, and they're ready for something exciting and new. When we say career academies, we are talking about small learning communities, where students take classes together in cohorts focused on career-connected learning opportunities. Let me be clear, this is not creating a new high school. This is creating small learning communities in our existing high schools. So I want to set the stage and talk a little bit about the changing workforce opportunities in Columbus. I think every day on the news we hear a story about Intel. Intel will bring over 3,000 jobs, over 3,000. Have you heard that Columbus is the one city in the entire state that is continuing to see continuous growth and economic development. Industries are moving to Columbus. How many of you have heard about the opportunities at our Ohio State University hospital system? Thousands of jobs connected to healthcare in the next couple of years in Columbus. So we believe that it is our duty and responsibility to ensure that we set our students up for success and that we make sure our community and region makes the right changes, not just changes, but the right changes. As the largest district in the state, this is our community, the Columbus community. Our career academies will help set our students up for success and truly set them up for life. When our students have access to the high-skilled, high-paying jobs right here in the city, we are not only changing the trajectory for that student, but for their entire family. This is about building generational wealth and setting our students up for success, not only as individuals, where they are earning a decent wage, where they can take care of their family, and where they will continue to build and spread that wealth in Columbus. So that's why we're here in this part of our presentation, and we are very excited about what is to come with career academies in Columbus City Schools. We did not invent the Career Academy strategy. In fact, this strategy is situated in research, much out of the Career Academy Coalition, which is a national organization supporting districts across the globe to integrate and implement career-connected learning opportunities. So while this is not a CCS-specific strategy, we didn't generate it, what we are generating in creating specifically for Columbus are the pathways that our community desires and will be relevant in the workforce of Columbus. So we've partnered with the National Career Academy to design and build and dream what we are calling the Academies of Columbus and what that will become. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Executive Director Megan Noble, who is going to give you some of the details about how we will implement career academies.
So in 25-26 school year, we will begin implementing freshman academies at 4 of our high schools: West High School, East High School, Walnut Ridge High School, and Beechcroft. The following year, 26-27, an additional 2 schools will begin the freshman academy, while the original 4 schools will open upper academies. In the 27-28 school year, 4 more schools will begin the model, while upper academies begin to unfold with the first and second cohort. By the fall of 2028, the Academies of Columbus will represent 10 comprehensive high schools. So when you look at the elements of an academy, I want to make sure we focus on the 5 elements of a CCS academy. Specifically, freshman seminar, interdisciplinary instruction, defined career and college readiness continuum, so we know what to expect in 6th grade, in 7th grade, and 8th grade for our students, how they're going to engage in college and career readiness. A student leadership structure focused around CTSOs, which Director Meade talked about earlier, an intentional 8th and 9th grade transition to make sure our students are comfortable when they come to their freshman year, so we know that they are happy, ready to engage, and ready to matriculate to those upper academies. Only a draft of West High School, and I want to say only a draft. We start with our freshman academy next year, followed with upper academies, 2 of them at a high school the size of West, with 2 specific centers in each. So for instance, in this model, you will have the Academy of Manufacturing and Information Technology, along with the Academy of Marketing and Public Health at West High School. Inside of those academies sit 2 centers with what Director Mead called the OD-defined sequencing of those courses, and those courses are in light blue. It's important to remember that we are looking at the economic development research in our region. We are fortunate, and our students and families are fortunate, that we really can't select a sector that isn't represented. There is no sector that holds a market of more than 17% in our region. So if you look at the sectors on the slides and all the companies that are ready to engage with us, we really can't go wrong, and our students can't go wrong. But of course, we hear a lot about the emerging industry. So semiconductors, EV, and clean tech, along with life sciences. So you will see those represented in our academy model designs. And back to our Deputy Superintendent.
There are clear benefits to college and career-connected learning, starting with a 10-year personalized plan that we will develop with our students for each student so that they have access to that 10-year plan, not only while they are in school with us, but it will be built in a platform that they can access after graduation. You see intentional industry partnerships. We are going to have industry partnerships in our school buildings, and we are going to help our industry partners center in the schools best aligned to their needs. As a district, we'll be able to say to our industry partners, this is the school where you should engage. This is the program where you're going to hire future students. And here's your pipeline. In order to prepare the students, this is what we really need from you in terms of engagement. We will enhance our college and career exploration and begin those discussions in middle school to support students who will begin to explore careers as middle schoolers, which will help them to see themselves as future professionals. We're making sure that we're looking at what is happening for our students after they leave high school and getting that input from our students. I think part of what is most exciting about this strategy and what students are telling us are all the opportunities for student leadership within a career academy. So that student leadership and advocacy, and intentionally designing new opportunities for students to lead in their school and in their community. And then, as you can see, the final benefit listed on the slide is dual enrollment. And we will make sure that dual enrollment courses in a school are directly aligned to the academy there, and that will allow students to further their post-secondary aspirations. And with that, we will close. We are excited to answer any questions that you may have. And again, want to let this committee know that you are among the first to get a preview of the Career Academy strategy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mosier. Thank you, team. So are there any questions? The floor is open. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you for this presentation. I almost burst over here. You're pressing buttons on me. I just have so much to say. I'm going to take a page out of Elizabeth Catherine Turner's book and just talk to the public for a second, and particularly people who live in the Linden area. This is why we are consistent with Columbus City Schools' goal for reading. This is why parents need to read with their children for 20 minutes a day in elementary school. Now, why is that? Because if you don't, your child not going to be eligible for those jobs. they're not going to be eligible. They have to learn to read and read well. There's exciting work being done with parents teaching their own children to read. Having said that, this is the most outstanding presentation I have heard. I am very connected and very informed. I knew nothing about this. 94% graduation rate? Outstanding. Outstanding. I am sitting at this desk because of academic excellence. I'm not here to be average. I have two sons who attended Columbus City Schools, graduated from another district, but nevertheless, one is in real estate right now. Yeah, but he has a master's from Johns Hopkins. And he says to me, Dad, I wish when I was in high school, I would have learned electrician. But see, when a child is on a pathway to go to a highly selected school, they're not thinking practical. He says, I should have learned carpentry. Why? I have to pay somebody every single time. I love this. So here's my questions. Number one, I notice you bring up Fort Hays, but on this chart, you have one dot for Fort Hays, and I thought Fort Hays had automobile, welding, carpentry. How come this chart don't reflect that?
Great question. So it reflects our comprehensive high school. So that picture shows Fort Hays Arts and Academic as the comprehensive high school. Our career centers have 14 of those different career fields. So the slide and the dots are only reflecting our comprehensive high schools, not our two career centers.
I also noticed you said that the folks at the zoo were being paid, those students. I am a major proponent of earning while learning. Are there other programs that are paying for kids to come and work?
We are working on that and to expand what that looks like. As always, when you're working with institutions and business partners, going during the school day, is it part of the curriculum? So we will be expanding next year. We have previously done this with CODA. Students have been employed during the day, and we're also trying to expand some of our programs to be a student-run enterprise.
Thank you. I want to advocate that a little bit larger, a little bit more deeper. In Linden, the average salary is $44,000 per household. Those children need to work. They do. They do. And they're asking to work, but they need to be trained. My last question is about competition. What you just presented to me is the ability for Columbus City Schools to compete with charter schools. We should not be the school of last resort. We should not be the school that somebody comes to because they have nowhere else to go. We ought to have parents knocking on the door saying, I got to get my kid in this school. They do it at Indianola. They do it at other schools. This right here, we can go get our families, go get our parents, and get our children. Thank you for allowing me just to share. I am so excited about this. I'm coming to your advisory board meeting. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Are there any additional questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you guys for your presentation. This is something special to me as well, technical education, as I do have a background in this as well. You mentioned in the beginning of your presentation, and I also mentioned this during our last presentation about shifting the portrait of graduate, right? And I think I also mentioned, and you echoed it too, Ms. Moser, the ever-changing landscape of employment here in Central Ohio. And also to echo you, Mr. Robinson, Columbus City Schools has the opportunity to be a model urban school for schools nationally. We do. With Columbus City Schools being the biggest district within our state, it's important that we have our hand in workforce development, equipping, our homegrown students in our backyard for these great opportunities that are coming here to our city of Columbus. Something I mentioned, I saw in one of the reports, and it made me question. As you know, part of a graduation, we have seals that students have to earn to obtain graduation. As you know, seals are not something you can take to an employer and obtain a job, right? So I believe that we're doing a great thing by, educating our students in these very skill-specific, I would say, roles. However, I feel that we do have to increase the credentialing. The credentialing is essential. That's how they get jobs. We can do all the curriculum and all I love the learning centers. I love that. But if we're not credentialifying our students, they're not really able to obtain employment. In different schools, I'm thinking Hamilton, Ashtabula, there's different schools that have done the similar project where they've created almost like technical education portfolios that begin as early, as you guys mentioned as well, as 7th grade, starting with QuickBooks, Microsoft, stackable credentials, where they're able to even have a portfolio before entering into 9th grade and joining their freshman seminar, right? I think that's going to be essential moving forward and really pushing the needle for students here. I also like to echo, I always say special education is near and dear to my heart. I also believe that technical education provides another opportunity for those students who learn differently. So I always like to advocate for students who not only look like me, but learn differently like myself in this technical education, robotics, manufacturing, electrical engineering. These are hands-on, tangible, I would say, curriculum building skills that were really targeted for those particular students. So I wanted to say thank you for the presentation. But also, my question is, how can we shift this to make sure that we are actually credentialifying these students? Would it be more of a push of ensuring that our educators have the expertise to teach these fields so that we're able to teach the curriculum based for those said credentials, like NIMS? NIMS is something, or in NASAR is something that's typically used within carpentry here within the state of Ohio. Is it more of a supporting our educators to teach the curriculum, or would it more be gaining more collaborative partnerships with these industries? Because there are industries here within Central Ohio that are open to creating apprenticeships and externships that are also paid, Mr. Robinson. So also there's funding in that. So what would be the biggest push to ensuring that the curriculum is also ensured that the students can also earn credentials?
So I think the easiest way to answer that question is the academy model. The ODEW defined sequencing of courses allows for credentials to be embedded in those courses. That's the way credentials should be earned, is inside a course that's in one of our academies. But I think I'll allow Jenny to talk about the PD that she's done so far to expand and increase those numbers.
So the report card reports students who are earning 12 points in the field of their program of concentration. So it's a little misleading, but the number of students earning credentials is significantly higher. So working with the teachers to align, are they the high programs, high in-demand credentials? So for example, we will be credentialing our manufacturing and engineering teachers on SACA, Smart Automation Credentialing, which is cutting edge, and that will be rolling out as we start to change some of the programs next year. This year, a great announcement is students in our teaching and early childhood have now, I think we have 14, maybe 16 students that have earned Parapro. That means that they can go work as an instructional assistant in a building now, right? So if you're in the early childhood program, you have something, you could be an instructional assistant as you're going to college to become a teacher. So we've really worked with our teachers, looking at those credentials, our advisory boards, looking through that list. Which ones do you need? Medical assisting, STNA. We just opened pharmacy tech program. And so now we have students who will be able to come out and work at how many different places as a farm tech. We probably all go to Kroger's, at CVS, is our CCS provider. So those credentials that lead to that, but it really took aligning those courses, aligning the teachers, and then bringing in industry partners and encouraging the partners to put it in their job postings. Because if a kid earns forklift certification, which many of our kids are, and they go into Indeed and see that there are currently 700 jobs that I could go get paid $17 an hour right now, 5 kids get forklift, sure enough, 5 more kids are lined up the next day saying, can I get forklift? Then 5 more, then here comes somebody's dad coming in asking, can I get forklift certification? So it really took that. So many times we're focused on graduating students and meeting those requirements, not necessarily like, yes, you passed the OST, but you can earn these credentials. Also, you should have both. So we've had to really change that mindset. So our results next year will be even more impressive.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, you guys mentioned about the the professional networking, and they're able to connect with the various business partners that sit on the advisory board. There are partnerships with different stakeholders where they do develop with school districts, where they do hire in a certain percentage of graduating students. So more than less than marketing towards them, we can create actually employment pipelines for our students into these particular jobs. I think that's something also that I feel like we should also kind of consider moving forward. But thank you so much for answering my questions and for the presentation.
Thank you for that. Any additional questions? Mr. Bean, you look like your wheels are spinning.
I don't have anything in particular hasn't already been said, so, but I appreciated the presentation. I'm impressed, to put it lightly, so thank you all for your work on this.
All right. With that in mind, can you tell the committee a bit about BZS, Building Zone Services, and our third cohort of students that are part of that program? Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure. To be honest, it's the perfect model that we'd like to replicate over and over and over again. City of Columbus has been a fantastic partner, and in a conversation that took place early on, many of the building inspectors in the City of Columbus are approaching that age to retire. They're going to have vacancies. They're looking for a diverse population to join building and zoning. So it goes back to that exact piece. If there are places that have had summer employment opportunities and students haven't had interactions, they don't apply. We know students apply for things they're familiar with, they feel welcomed and accepted. So during the junior year building and zoning, many of the different inspectors pushed into classrooms. We did a shadow day. Kids would be able to go to the huddle, hear what inspectors do, follow for the day. Then when they offered a summer opportunity for students between the junior and senior year, the number of kids applied significantly increased. It's not rocket science. Kids apply for things that they've had good experiences. They know they're accepted. They know they're going to be supported. So students were paid, excuse me, students were paid and employees of the City of Columbus to work with building inspectors. We currently have a student who is the first building inspector trainee who has been hired full-time employee, and he was a student that was a junior, worked that summer, had an intensive experience in the summer. Not only has it been a great experience for Columbus City students to be able to see the why of building and zoning. If I'm an electrician and I had a summer experience with building and zoning, I know the why. I don't see an inspector as the enemy. I see them as a friend and a partner. The other piece is, the feedback that we got from the City of Columbus. Inspectors were making sure they took vacation after their interns were there. Yes. Their attendance rate was higher because they didn't want to let the kids down. They've really enjoyed getting to meet kids and see them through their whole process. So again, the Columbus Zoo, we had them meet with building and zoning to learn best practices. What are some things to consider? So as we continue to replicate this, we will highlight Columbus Zoo, building and zoning, and our partners who've really made this happen. If it wasn't for them, I'm not sure it would have worked the same. They had a desire to bring in students with a bunch of different experiences. And they do like a ceremony at the end of their junior year summer employment piece, and you just sit there just so happy, right? Everybody, moms are excited, kids are excited, the mentors all have great things. So if we could just replicate that in so many other areas, why would you ever miss school and your graduation rate we've solved our graduation problem if we can have more kids with those experiences.
So just with that in mind too, the Columbus Zoo partnership is not new. It's been around for at least 10 years. It has. My daughter worked in that program as a high school student. That was her first job. No, Kroger was her first job. Columbus Zoo was her second job. So this is something that, and this was at a time where this was summer employment when we started that, and Alicia Gillison was here during that time. So these are new things that have had the opportunity over time to evolve and actually grow into something that now is becoming even more industry relevant. So I'm excited about this. Just a couple of questions that I have. What is the anticipated impact on enrollment in terms of increase? I appreciate the fact that this is something that we're expanding through our high schools. What are we anticipating in terms of recapturing our students? I appreciate Mr. Robinson, future Dr. Robinson, alluding to that, because that's important. What does that anticipated impact look like?
I mean, I would tell you that I think that students are going to be the best marketing tool that we have. And I think students will be able to tell the story of their experience, and students listen to students. I think that will impact our charter schools. I think it will impact our other schools in the district. So we are anticipating attendance to grow and expand at those schools, and we'll be ready for that in the design.
How does this, and thank you for that, how does this, and I again appreciate the fact that we're going back as early as 6th grade. We do have a math goal in this district that are tied to our goals and guardrails. Is there a projected idea of what the impact on that pathway in improving the goal in math, the math space? What is the impact in that space that you anticipate?
So I think if you look through the research of academies, I think the impact isn't directly on academic achievement. It is about feeling engaged in a place in your high school. And we know if students come to school, matriculate through 9th grade, are engaged, and they're actually attending class with peers with similar interest, engaging in extracurricular or leadership opportunities and dual enrollment, achievement is going to be increased. So in some of those career fields, there's a focus on mathematics, without a doubt. Going back to, there are many professions that you're still going to have to go to college. This is not a pipeline into careers. It's a pipeline of choice. And our students need to be able to have a choice. We want them to be able to choose. And if they're going to go to Columbus State to be a technician at a semiconductor plant, we want them to be able to complete, and they have to work while they're doing that. So these are the options of growing jobs while they're still in post-secondary. So they're not moving jobs 2 or 3 times in their freshman year of college. This is the plan through high school graduation, not just to graduation. So I think that enrollment will increase in all those spaces.
Okay, I thank you for that. I want to make sure moving forward, because I know for a fact my colleagues on the board are going to ask the question around anticipated growth. We have quantitative measures. We have number-based measures to our goals that we've identified. I think it's important to be clear about and intentional, I'll use that word, to be intentional in aligning identifying what this impact is going to be and aligning it to how we will meet and or exceed our goals. I want to make sure I just stress that you guys have done a great job of putting this work together. You did say in some aspects of this being a draft.
Yes.
But as you guys are cultivating this plan, because the clock is ticking on when you actually going to start it, I think it's critical that we know how, from a quantitative standpoint, a numbers standpoint, how this aligns to the goals that we have in place right now. Yeah, but bon travail, good job, good work. Are there any other questions before we adjourn? Any other comments, thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cole, to kind of echo
In brevity.
just to echo what you said, Mr. Cole, because everything is data-driven. We live in a data-driven world. If it doesn't have metrics, it don't make sense. I'm sure you guys have done research in other large urban schools who have also made this switch to where that you would be able to give us data points if we were to request that, where we would go with growth in certain areas of achievement, not only in just our math, but just our STEM overall. Since a lot of these are in robotics, they're very field specific. So I'm sure if we were to request data, you guys could get us some metrics on what the actual outcomes would potentially be for Columbus City Schools.
Yes, and in your presentation, there is a link to the research.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Nashville, Tennessee really, and I know years ago, again, probably now, about 10 years ago or slightly more, this has been a model that we've been looking at for a very long time. And I know that Tennessee, specifically in Nashville, were some of those, that state and some of those larger urban districts that were utilizing this model and actually have it on and really working. I don't know if NASCAR or something like was a part of that. I know former board member W. Shauna Gibbs came here talking about NASCAR as an opportunity. But thank you for this. This has been an amazing piece. I look forward to seeing more from it. Thank you all for your comments and questions. With that, is there, yes, ma'am, go ahead, please.
If I may.
Yeah.
I heard a comment early in the meeting that I just want to make sure we're all clear on a piece of data.
Yeah.
And that is that our enrollment in Columbus City Schools is up.
Yes, 47,000 plus students, yes.
Yes. And so while sometimes we hear a narrative that there are fewer students being served, we're actually up over 1,200 students from this week last year. Just wanted to make
thank
sure
you for that
we
year-to-date.
all have that, that data.
Yep, thank you for that year-to-date
Thank you.
announcement, absolutely. I had the opportunity to attend a committee last night where that number was also shared. And Dr. Chapman and I have been through several different community events and engagements where that information is also shared. We're having the opportunity to see growth. This opens the door of opportunity to increase it. At this point in time, right now, as we speak, we have a capacity to educate 60,000 students. We have a capacity right now to educate 60,000 students. So for those who are watching and learning about all of the great and exciting things that we're doing, yes, make CCS your #1 choice, absolutely. So thank you with that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved?
I'll second.
And we still don't have the quorum, but nonetheless, we have
other
motion to adjourn.
You
I
have-
thank you all. We look forward to seeing you the second Thursday of April, second week, second Thursday of April. I need to look at, what date is that, Mr. Williams?
That is